Shalom, when this stuff, so about giving no praise to Yahweh, Pashem, Yahshua, Bashem, Kadash, double honors to the apostles of great most, and honor to you brothers doing the work of the most in truth and in sincerity. Yahweh's real name of whom the world in we calls God Jehovah Yahweh. His real name is Yahweh. Son's true name is Yahweh Shai. And when we pray Yahweh Bar Hashem, Yahweh Shai, coming in, meaning that and Shem, meaning names Yahweh in the name of Yahweh Shai. Real quick. Yeah, I mean, when I was looking into this, the thing that just kind of came to mind is basically the UK, because that's what these devils do, man. They set precedents, right? So that these precedents can be used, for later on in a in another usage, right? That's what you see when you're looking at a lot of the stuff to do with the tea thing, right? Whether that's Shamama Begum or Alian Walaki, whatever his name was, what Esau there was doing was setting a precedent, right? So this is from Merriam-Webster. It says precedent, an early occurrence of something similar, something done or said that may serve as an example or rule to authorize or justify a subsequent act of the same or an analogous kind. Right, specifically law, a judicial decision that should be followed by a judge when deciding a later similar case, right? So basically, what you're seeing here with this guy Kanye, which is funny, the different apostles elders, speak about how, Archeum speak about how Ye just gets rolled out whenever there is something to, it's funny because even this article, right, you see, it was 1333 British summertime. Okay, and from the sounds of it, this the tour allegedly, I've not verified it, but allegedly this tour that Kanye did, at the SoFi Stadium, whatever, right, generated 33 million. Okay, so we understand that this is just someone that is used to basically push agendas. Okay, this is Psalm 64 and 6. They search out iniquities, they accomplish a diligent search, right? Both the inward thought of the heart of every one of them and the heart, both the inward thought of every one of them and the heart is deep. Okay, right? So all of these plans and all of these different plans and etc. that this man does, right? Basically says that he's doing all of these things to basically further his agenda, right? Further his enterprise, right? But everything about his enterprise, we understand, right, is going to be basically be brought to naught, right? This is Job 5 and 12. He disappointeth the devices of the crafty so that their hands cannot perform their enterprise, right? Because in the eyes of this Edomite, right, it looks like he is it looks like basically he's getting away with it, if you will, right? That he's moving towards his agenda, right? But we understand that that's not going to be the case. That's not what the Lord has set for him. Okay, so it's beautiful. Once again, it's just beautiful to see, all of this happening and coming to pass. Okay, right? Because we understand ultimately what this leads to. Right, this is what, because basically what you're saying now is if you're, you can be barred entry into the United Kingdom, right, if you have specific views. Right, now let's also get that let's also get this as well, right? So let's bring it into this tab. All right, so as you see here, right, travel.state.gov announcement of expanded screening and vetting for visa applicants, right? Effective 30th of March, right? The Department of State will expand online presence review to include applicants in the following additional non-immigrant visa classifications. These are in addition to H-1B applicants and their dependents, and the FM blah, blah, blah. This is to facilitate this vetting. All applicants, right, are instructed to adjust privacy settings on all of their social media profiles, public or open. The department uses all available information in visa screening and vetting to identify visa applicants who are inadmissible to the United States, including those who pose a threat to U.S. national security or public safety. We conduct thorough vetting of all visa applicants. Every visa adjudication is a national security decision. The U.S. must be vigilant during the visa issuance process to ensure that those applying for admission into the U.S. do not intend to harm Americans and our national interests, and that all applicants credibly establish their eligibility for the visa sought, including that they intend to engage in activities consistent with with the terms of their admission. A U.S. visa is a privilege, not a right. Okay, let me just ask the robot real quick, what kind of social media posts might get your US visa blocked? Right. See if the AI mode can come in good. Doesn't always come in good, but we'll see. Move to this tab. Right. So it says blah. Says hostility towards the United States posts that express aggression or hostile attitudes towards U.S. citizens, culture, government institutions, or founding principles are frequently flagged. Right, insults to U.S. leadership. Right, so basically saying that, you're anti-Trump. Right, aggressive political rants or personal attacks on current or past leaders, anti-American sentiments, broad statements showing a gradual, deep-seated bias against the U.S., intent to violate immigration laws, extreme or hate speech, and as you see here, right, anti-Semitic activity, right, since April 2025, specifically considers endorsing or promoting anti-Semitic activity or supporting groups like Hamas or Hezbollah as grounds for denial. Right, even minor engagement with extremist topics or advocating for designated foreign terrorist organizations flag. So basically, we are, getting into a realm where you stay where you are, right? If you say something about the small hat, guess what? You ain't gonna be allowed to do certain things, right? Because it's gonna expand, right? What you're gonna start seeing next is remove, as we saw with what's this chick, man, Shamama Begum, removal of citizenship, removal of the right to be in these Western countries if you hold certain views, right? Which we're just like, look, man, bring it on, man, because we understand this one thing, that's just you taking another prophecy, right, off the list, right? It says Amos 8:11, behold, the days come, right, saith the Lord power, that I will send a famine in the land, not a famine of bread, nor a thirst for water, but of hearing the words of Yahweh, right? So this is time we're coming into, a time where basically you can't say or do anything against a small hat, right, without without retribution, right? Because he's cornered. The small hat is cornered, and he's basically wanting to come in and protect. But there's what it was the saying in V for Vendetta, right? You had the scene near at the end. It's like you can kill the man, but you can't kill the idea, right? And ultimately, this ain't of us anyway, right? Right. Let's grab that in Acts the 5th chapter, right? So I'll read into the article, right? It says article I'll read into it. Right, Acts 5:33, right? It says, when they had heard this, they were cut to the heart and took counsel to slay them. Then stood there up one in the council, a Pharisee named Gamaliel, a doctor of the law, had in reputation among all the people, and commanded to put the apostles forth a little space, and said unto them, ye men of Israel, take heed to yourselves what ye intend to do as touching these men. For before these days rose up Theudas, boasting himself to be somebody, to whom a number of men, and about 400 joined themselves, who were slain, and all, as many as obeyed him, were scattered and brought to naught. And after those rose up Judas of Galilee in the days of the taxing, and drew away much people after him. He also perished, and all, even as many as obeyed him, were dispersed. Right? And the precept that comes to mind is this. This is Psalms 127, right from 1. It says, except Yahweh build the house, they labor in vain that build it. And these are examples of that. And what he is doing is another example of that. Right, he's thinking, yeah, I'm just going to stop, there's truth coming up, because he's scared. We understand he's scared, I understand he's scared, right? But too bad, right? We still going to get what it is that we're still going to get what it is that we are expecting, which is the kingdom, right? Regardless of what games Esau tries to play. Right, so let's finish it off. Psalms 127. Except Yahweh keep the city, the watchman waketh but in vain. Okay, so let's finish this off now. Right, back in Acts 5:37, 38, Slak, it says, and now I say unto you, refrain from these men and let them alone. For if this counsel be the work of men, it will come to naught. But if it be of the Most High, you cannot overthrow it. Lest haply ye be found even to fight against the Most High. And that's it, right? Even you trying to come up against the truth, right, is you fulfilling prophecy, right? Is you're doing what the Lord wants, okay? Right, this is 2 Corinthians 13 and 8. It says, for we can do nothing against the truth but for the truth, right? Because the Most High is with this agenda, all of this trying to stop the truth coming out, right? As we read in Amos 8 and 11, all you're doing is just fulfilling prophecy. You're just taking another thing off the list, right? Right, because once again, what they're basically saying off of this, example here is, basically, if you have certain views, you can no longer enter the US. And what we saw in the US and in the UK, and don't be surprised if you start seeing very soon, right, that you can't, if you've obtained citizenship, that your citizenship gets revoked, right, and if you've and then what, don't be surprised if even if you ain't, if you're a natural born citizen, right, regardless of your lineage, like, your recent lineage according to Esau's immigration rules. Don't be surprised we start seeing those individuals, deported to third countries, which is another precedent that they've been setting, right? Deporting people to third countries that they've never been to. Okay, so as always, that was edifying. Till next time we say shalom.